everybody, and welcome to the next part of the Tarkir Dragonstorm limited set review. Today, we're going to be looking at the red cards. I think it has been a wild ride so far. And so, we'll just hop into it with our first card, Wild Ride. See what I did there? That was good, wasn't it?
It
This
was.
is one red for a sorcery. Target creature gets +3/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. And then it has Harmonize. We'll read it one more time for the class. You may cast a spell from your graveyard for its Harmonize cost. You may tap a creature you control to reduce that cost by X, where X is its power, and then you exile it. I think this card is borderline unplayable, is my instinct. Giving something with mobilize haste, there's a chance that it ends up being like enough damage that it helps like decks close out, but I doubt that that's true. And the harmonize, the +3/+0, and giving something haste is a useful ability, but when you have to tap a creature to do it, that's like kind of uninstinctual for the way the card works. My guess is this is probably pretty close to unplayable. I have it around a 9. How do you feel?
I agree. Like tapping a creature to give another creature +3/+0 in haste is just so weird. Um, I like maybe there's a hyper aggressive deck in like Jeskai space with like Flurry that might play this. I'm really stretching. I think this might be my first 10. Like, I just cannot see needing to pick this in a draft beyond just wheeling it and taking it for free. And even then, like, I rarely, if ever, will end up playing it. So I think this is my first 10. I'm going to give it a 10.
Yeah. I can agree with you. I'm gonna give it a 10. The first one. Do not draft it. You will not be in for a very fun ride. It will just be wild.
Wild but bad. So next card is Shock Brigade, one in a red for a 1/3 with Menace and Mobilize 1. This is your 2-drop Mobilize enabler at common. Pretty strong, I would say. Like, Menace is really nice for this not getting blocked super easily, and it's not amazing on its own. Like, it kind of attacks for 2, but it sort of doesn't because it's pretty easy for them to just block the warrior when it's attacking, but we've just seen a lot of cards that really like to play with mobilize, and I think this is exactly how you enable those. So I'm probably going to put this at somewhere like 6. Uh, I think it's going to be a common that you like actively want.
Yeah, I agree. I want to put it above most of the commons that we have at like, 7, 8. I think 6 is a good place for this one. All right, next we have the Devoted Duelist, not to be confused with the Duelist of the Mind. Although, I don't know, Nathan can tell me. Maybe this is kind of like Nathan. One
This
red
is just
for a
Nathan
one.
when he's a little bit angry.
I was gonna say that's pretty good, but I don't think I've seen Nathan angry.
No, me neither. So
This
it's
is
only in theory. It's an artist's depiction of
yes,
the
yes.
idea.
The AI version of Nathan angry. All right, this is 2 mana for a 2/1 with haste. Whenever you cast your second spell this turn, sorry, each turn, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. I think, unlike Nathan, this card is pretty bad.
Yeah.
um,
No, I agree.
a 2/1, you don't want to need to like do other things. 1 damage is like not really a great payoff. There's a fair amount of good blockers for this in the set. I think this card is. I'm also going to put this card at a 10.
I don't think I'd give it a 10 just because, like, 2/1 haste is a reasonable-ish aggressive body, but I'm not gonna go that much higher. I'll put it at a 9. Like, you'll sometimes play it, but you really don't want to.
All right. Well, you don't want this guy attacking you for giving him a 10, so I'll go with a 9 too.
Next card, Jeskai Devotee, 1 in a red for a 2/2. It's got Flurry. When you flurry, when you cast your second spell, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and then it fixes for Jeskai colors. I like it. Like, the body on its own is not great, but I think it's a hard card to block, so it'll be able to get in some damage a good amount of the time. And then Jeskai seems to be not as aggressive as Mardu. Like, it's not the mobilized deck, but it's probably the second type of aggro deck in the format, this flurry deck that we've been talking about. And fixing colors is nice, but I don't think this is quite as good as the more defensively slanted devotees. So Yeah, I don't know. I think like you'll need to take some amount of these just to fix well in your red decks, but um, I'd probably put it at like a 6, maybe a 7, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think 6.5 sounds good to me. It's all right. I'm gonna give it a 6 because I gave the other one a 6. The we haven't seen the fixing lands and stuff yet, but we're talking about something that looks like a pretty strong 3-color format, and this is one of the things that is going to help you play 3 colors, and so it's got that at base, and it's a totally serviceable thing otherwise. Right, now we have Fire Rim Form. This is 2 mana for an enchantment with flash. When this aura enters, enchanted creature gains first strike until end of turn. An enchanted creature gets +2/+0. So this is their like first strike trick of the set, but it's on an enchantment, and instead of it being +3/+0, it's +2/+0. The first strike cards are like normally fine. Maybe like a little bit better because of the mobilized cards this time around. Like you might want to be able to attack with a mobilized creature, and if you can, bring this in and give it first strike and let it live, that seems like a pretty strong play pattern. But these are never things you have to pick very highly. Typically they come around. They're chicks. They require creatures. They're like just fine. So I think I'd probably put this around an 8.
This art is scary.
It is
That's
kind of
my only
scary.
contribution. Um, yeah, exactly everything you said. Like, it's fine. It's a combat trick. It sticks around, but it's slightly worse than the normal combat trick that you would get with this mana cost. And like, those are never that good anyway. So yeah, I'm good with an 8.
Okay, I'm looking at it now. Is this guy's foot, or is this guy fire breathing on this guy? What's happening here?
I'm pretty sure it's his like leg or foot. But his expression is the part that's scary to me.
He's
He's
like
like
he's
really
in pain.
intense. Anyway, the next card is Molten Exhale. 1 in a red for a sorcery. You may cast it as though it had flash if you behold a dragon, and then it deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. So I like this card. I mean, 2 mana, 4 damage is like pretty good removal and limited, and then sometimes you'll be able to cast it at instant speed, which is super nice. Uh, yeah, it's just like really good. It's
Yeah,
good removal. I'd give it a 3 probably.
yep, 3. I think 3 is like kind of our soft spot for solid removal, not like crazy above rate or anything. And I think this is exactly that.
Cool.
All right, now we have Twin Bolt. This is 2 mana instant. It deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets. 2 damage is typically not enough damage in limited to main deck cards like this. I think most of the time they end up being sideboard cards, especially like I think Magic over the last like years adapted to a lot of like 3 toughness creatures. In this set, there's been a decent amount of 1 or 2 toughness creatures, so I could see like 2 mana shock being okay. But I mean, if you think about how many things shock played or how many things shock did, like this is 2 mana to shock, and it's not often going to kill 2 things. So I think I value this card pretty low. An 8. There's a chance it could be a 7 if like, it ends up being an okay removal spell, but I definitely don't think it's something you're ever taking highly.
I really agree. Yeah, with everything you're saying. Like, this just isn't really a full removal spell, and the ability to split the damage is going to be pretty rare that it comes up. Um, and sure, you can hit their face, but like it's just so much more expensive than shock. And I think a lot of the mobilized creatures, like the aggressive creatures in this format, have high toughness because they're making these like 1/1 tokens when they attack, and they're sort of designed to be able to survive the attack. So this card's not terrible, but like I think it's going to be worse than your average common. Probably, I'm putting it at like an 8. I think.
Yeah, I agree. All right.
All right, got Underfoot Underdogs, 2 in a red for a 1/2 goblin, and when it enters, you make a 1/1 goblin. So 2 goblins for the price of one, and it has 1 tap. Target creature you control with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. This card's interesting. It's kind of overcosted, I would say, for the bodies you're getting. It's part of the like go wide space, but it also like there. I don't think there are a lot of 2 power creatures that you really want to get in this format. It feels like there's like 1 power things with like mobilize and that kind of thing. And 3 mana is more than we're used to paying for that like unblockable effect on this kind of body. I think normally that we get that on like our typical aggressive two drop. It's hard for me to justify playing this, I think, as like my three drop spot in an aggressive deck. Maybe I'm underestimating it, but I don't know. I'm not that excited. What about you?
I think I'm a little higher on it than you are. Um, two bodies. It's 2/3 worth of power toughness for 3 mana, which I think is fine. I think being able to make one of your power two or less creatures that, has mobilize unable to be blocked can be really good for like an aggressive turn. I'm thinking like, we've got frontline rush where this makes two creatures, and then the following turn you can make one of them unblockable, attack with all of them, and then you can also frontline rush. I think this card is definitely going to be a serviceable common. If not, I could see it being something pretty valuable in these decks. So I'm closer to a 7. And I think I kind of like it in that space.
Can you remind me what Frontline Rush is again?
It's the 1 white, 1 red multicolor card that gives
Oh
+X
yeah,
for cards attacking or makes goblins.
got it. Okay. Yeah, this kind of guarantees that getting in. That makes sense.
Yeah, and then it
Yeah,
lets her
I still
mobilize a
think I'm
thing
more like an
attack.
8 on it.
I think it's definitely interesting. All right, so now we have
Okay.
Rescue Leopard. This is such a cute card. 3 mana for
It
a
is.
4/2. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Um, it's a 4/2. So like it is a decently aggressive attacker. That being said, I don't think I can go any higher than 8 on something with 2 toughness. When it attacks, you do get to discard and then draw, but it's very rarely, I think, going to be able to attack in a way where, you're not concerned it's going to trade down. So I think I'm unexcited about this card, but it's playable. Probably an 8.
Yeah, I think the thing this is supposed to be doing is like harmonize because you like tap it to cast the harmonize spell and you discard your next
Oh,
harmonize
I
spell.
see.
But like that's pretty finicky. And like the body's fine, but it's definitely not exciting. I don't think it's a great blocker. Like, yeah, I think this is at best if you're really like enabling it, like an average common. So I think 8 is perfect for it. Like,
Yeah. I
yeah,
didn't think
it's
about the
never gonna be great.
harmonized
You never
thing,
need to
but
prioritize.
I don't think it
That's like the
changes too
joke, I
much.
guess, but I'm not laughing that hard at the joke, I
Yeah.
guess. Okay, so seize opportunity, two in a red for an instant. You can choose one. Exile the top two cards of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play those cards, or up to two target creatures each get +2/+1 until end of turn. This is pretty sweet. Like it's kind of close to a divination, I would say. Most of the time, if you're casting this for 3 mana, you're going to be able to use both of the cards. They might be a little bit more awkward than if they just went to your hand, but like you'll be able to get two cards out of this a lot. Ask me how I know, playing questing druid and gruel in
Mhm.
standard. And then the like combat trick option is also like pretty good. Like sometimes you'll get a card and a half out of it. Sometimes you'll even get two cards out of it. Uh, I like this card. It's nothing great. Like, it's probably just an average common for me. I'd probably give it like a 7.
Yeah, I agree. I do think it's interesting. I think blocking the mobilized tokens, the mechanic makes it feel like blocking them will be like decently free because they're 1/1s and they sacrifice. But there really is like a fair amount of these combat tricks that are stapled onto cards that do other things. So I think we might end up finding that blocking the mobilized tokens is not so free.
Yeah, I agree. It's not going to be free, even psychologically, a lot of
Yeah.
the time. And then, like, I think it will be correct to sort of force them to have it a lot, but you will get got sometimes. And if you have
Mhm.
a really valuable card, like, don't just throw it in front of the mobilized token and be like, it's fine. It's probably not fine. There's a lot of ways they can
Yeah,
punish
and
you.
it definitely gives like some benefit to drafting cards like this because, you know, the first effect is not bad, but the second effect is when you get them, and because they're both stapled onto
Yeah,
one card, I think it goes up in value a little bit.
exactly.
All right, we got a Yeti Summit Intimidator. I'm intimidated. 4 mana for a 4/3 with reach. When this creature enters, target creature can't block this turn. I am no longer intimidated. I this card's fine. Like sometimes
It's
your red
fine.
cards need to have reach on them or you will die to flyers. Just like the way the color pairs often end up. Um, I don't think I want to like actively seek out this card. I don't think I would give it quite a 9 because the cards we've given 9s have been pretty bad, but I honestly, it doesn't feel good enough to give an 8. I'm going to give it a solid 8.5.
Okay. I'm a little higher on this. I think like the ability can push through an attack and the reach is kind of nice and the body's not that bad. I think this is just like an average common. I might give it like a 7.
Oh, interesting. I
Yeah.
definitely am not giving it higher
Maybe
than
I'm a
an
little too
8.
high.
I'm
Yeah,
not
four
intimidated.
drops are not like premium. You don't need to prioritize them, but I think this is like just a very average four drop. I think you'll end up playing one in like a lot of red decks, and you're fine playing two. But I don't know. Maybe I'm a little too high.
Maybe this is
We'll
why I don't
see.
play a lot of red decks.
Okay. Next card, Meticulous Artisan. 3 in a red for 3/3 with prowess, and when it enters, create a treasure token. Huh. Uh, Weird card. I guess it's for like double spelling in theory. That's like
Yeah,
the joke being made. But 4 mana is a lot. 3/3 is not a great blocker.
but it kind of
Treasure lets you
fixes.
splash, I guess. Yeah, it's fixing.
Okay,
But it
this one
actually
actually is
is.
fixing. I mean, it makes a treasure.
No, it actually is fixing. No, I know, it's just funny. Yeah, I think this card's fine, but, like, I'm pretty unhappy with the body if I'm putting it in my deck, and so I'm never that excited to play it. I think it's a necessity if I, like, need fixing and don't have a lot of 4s, but I'm pretty unexcited about this one. This might we might be flipped because these cards, like, go differently in our styles, but I would give this probably, like, an 8, maybe even an 8.5.
I think this to me isn't just an average common. You know, we've talked about possibly wanting fixing, and I think prowess is a pretty cool ability on creatures, like typically. Add some complexity to the game. I'd probably give it a 7.
It's so funny. We were like exactly flipped on this card and the last card. That's just a great like indication of both of our styles in limited.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we are on to our Omen Dragon for red. The creature side is 5 mana for a 3/3 flying haste creature that has dragon breathing for 1 in a red. The creatures can get +1/+0 until end of turn. And then the sorcery side is 2 mana. Oh, okay, so our um, tormenting voice is on the other side of this omen. Discard a card if you do draw 2 cards. That's pretty cool. You know, 5 mana for a flying haste creature can help push like final points of damage in an aggro deck. And, you know, I like that our tormenting voice does something. You know, it shuffles back into your deck and can become a creature. And I like having these effects in aggro decks to kind of try to prevent flooding and things like that. And then, you know, on top of that, I can get +1/+0 and be kind of a mana sink. I think this card's pretty cool. I like this a little bit more than the other dragons we've looked at so far, I think. Just like slightly above the rest of the commons. I'd probably put this like a 6.
Hmm. I'm a little lower on it actually than the other dragons. I think the dragon side of it is a little bit worse. Like flying haste is nice, but 3/3 is really small. Like 4 mana 3/3 flyers are typically not amazing, and this is like 5 mana. Give it haste, it's like kind of 4-ish. Um, Tormenting Voices are really valuable though. I do think the like filtering from Tormenting Voice and the flexibility of this card are sort of doing the same thing for you. And so I guess to some extent, like I want a Tormenting Voice later in the game when I need to like filter out a land that I drew, and I want this dragon later in the game when I would rather like have an expensive spell than a cheap spell. That's sort of the same thing to me, and so it's sort of duplicative to some extent, a little bit. Not that it's bad, just that you're not getting like additional value from the like different places each of these effects are good. They're sort of good in the same place, at least a little bit to me.
I can see
Um,
that.
for all those reasons, I think I'm like slightly lower on this than on the other Omen Dragons, but not that much. It's still playable for sure. I would give this 7.5, maybe something like
You
that.
had
The
convinced me on
tormenting voice is
7.
nice.
I'll go
Okay,
down to a
cool.
7.
So
But I'm
we're
also
close
like
enough.
typically too high on tormenting voice. Um, so I anticipate being a little bit higher on it than the average.
One thing I will actually note, like we should talk about what happens if you put like 6 of these Omen Dragons in a deck. Does your deck become significantly denser later in the game? And can that be kind of like a way to build a deck to have like a decent late game? What do we think?
Yeah, I think it depends on what the sorcery side is. Like if the sorcery side is like one of them makes a 2/2 or something, right? Is kind of able to stand on its own, develop the board, then that feels like it might be kind of strong. But I think if you have five of all the dragons are expensive, so if the Omen side is just tormenting voice, then I don't think you're gonna
Right, you
get
can't play too many
enough
of
through the
those.
early game to like play three mana or 5 mana 3/3 flyers 3 turns in a row. So and I don't think you're gonna want that. Like the sorcery sides of these, I don't think are good enough that you're gonna want like high densities of the dragons. I think they'll be fine in one or two O's, but I don't know if you're gonna want piles of them. At least my
Yeah, I think I
instincts.
agree. I just wanted to bring it up. I think like that is a subtle deck building thing that you can do a little bit of. Like, oh, I have three of these dragons that I happen to want to play for the Omen, so I can like adjust my deck a little bit away
Mm-hmm.
from needing late game spells because I will like have these that I'm drawing more often. But yeah, it's a very minor. Just wanted
I
to note
agree.
it.
All right, now we are on to Narset's Rebuke. This is 5 mana instant. Deals 5 damage to target creature. Add Jeskai mana. If this creature would die this turn, exile it. So generally, these 5 mana removal spells are like if you need a removal spell, you can play them. Um, that's like just generally true of the expensive like red and black removal spells. If you can't find anything better, you have them. This one is kind of cool, given that it adds Jeskai. It adds to like
I
double
mean,
spelling for 5 mana. You can use it, kill a creature, and then use the double spell with the mana to trigger like flurry or these two spell things. But I still think it's just like, a kind of overcosted removal spell. I'm probably putting this. It is still a removal spell, and it does enough damage that I'm putting it above like most commons. So I'm probably putting it as about a 6.
what do you mean, Nicole? This isn't the 5 mana removal spell. This is the 2 mana removal spell. Uh, Not really. It still, for most intents and purposes, costs 5 because you can't use it to kill something for 2 mana most of the time. But like, I do think that adding mana ability is pretty valuable,
But Ryan,
um,
it's fixing.
especially. Okay, this one I don't know if I'll grant you. This one's kind of tough. If you have a cheap card, I guess it's fixing.
I
But
think I've decided if I ever
yeah,
make merch, that's what it's gonna be. It's just gonna say it's kind
it's a
of
good
fixing, right?
merch. It's kind of fixing. um, I think this card might actually be pretty sweet in the decks that are trying to double spell. Like, I don't know, 3 mana is a lot. I feel like you'll be able to cast a follow up a lot of the time in those decks. So, but I guess all of that kind of adds up to me giving it like the same grade as you because I would normally give these 5 mana removal spells like an 8. So I
Hmm.
think that like brings it to a 6. Like, and there will be a lot of turns where this sort of legitimately does cost 2 mana, and that's really powerful. But there will also be turns where it just costs 5, and that's like pretty clunky. So I
Yep.
think like slightly above average common is where I'd land. So like 6. Yeah,
Yep.
I agree. Next card, Fleeting Effigy. We're in the uncommons now. This is single red for a 2/2 haste. At the beginning of your end step, return it to its owner's hand, and it has 2 in a red to give it +2/+0 until end of turn. So this card, you're not allowed to keep this card on the battlefield. This is kind of a callback to the dash mechanic from Dragons of Tarkir, but it doesn't have the option to play it without quote unquote dashing it. Um, Interesting.
It's not
This is kind
Ragavan.
of just a card that like it is Ragavan, it is not, certainly. Um, yeah, this is a very weird card. I think it's mostly bad, I'm gonna say. Like, it kind of just does them damage, and if they have a blocker with 3 toughness, it like doesn't do them damage unless you're spending your whole turn to pump it. They can always trade it off with a 2 power creature whenever they want. So, and you have to just keep spending so much mana into this that like it's a 1 drop, but it's not really a 1 drop. It's kind of like a 4 drop or a 6 drop. Like you're just going to be spending so much mana on this if you're using it over the course of the game. I'm pretty down on this card. I'd give it like a 9, maybe even a 10. Where are you at?
Yeah, I'll give it a 9. I don't think it's unplayable. Maybe there's an aggro deck that wants it, but I am not very high on it. 9 is yeah, I don't think it's deserving of the 10 slot.
Fair enough.
All right, now we are on to Channeled Dragonfire. This one is actually shock. 1 red for a sorcery deals 2 damage to any target. I guess it is a sorcery, but it does have harmonize, so you can do it again. and it is 1 mana, will let you do some of the double spell things, and it does seem like there's enough 2 toughness creatures in this format that this will be playable. um I still don't think this is anything crazy, and the harmonized cost is really expensive. I'm probably putting this at about like where I am on most commons. um like a 7 is where I'm feeling the vibes.
I kind of like this card. I think I'm a little higher on it. Like your opponent is sort of virtually at 2 less life whenever you have this card, just because if they get to 2, they're just dead because you can spend your entire turn harmonizing it. Um, and that does matter. And like, in a grindy game, you will find the time to spend a tapped creature and 3 mana, right? To like kill a 2 toughness creature and just get like an extra card out of this. And 1 mana is really efficient. So you don't totally care if it's killing like a only medium early creature on their side because you only spent 1 mana on it. And then you get a card back for free later on. You also might have synergies with like cards leaving your graveyard or double spelling or something like that. I don't know. I think I'm pretty high on this. I'd probably give it like a 4 or a 5. I think it might just be kind of sweet.
Interesting. I could see being a little higher on it than I am currently. I guess like 2 mana, 2 damage and limited has just like felt so underwhelming recently. But I could see it being better in this set.
It also like can just be 4 damage on a turn if you need it to be sometimes. So I don't know. You'll be in a 3 color deck, so you won't often have triple red. But yeah, I think somewhere in between our grades is probably like the most accurate.
All right.
Next card, Shocking Sharpshooter.
I'm
This is
shocked.
not shock.
Like it's literally
One
shooting
in a
the arrow at
red.
me.
He is. Yeah, on my screen in particular, he's like shooting across the monitor towards your recording. Um, so 1 in a red for a 1/3 reach, and whenever another creature you control enters, this creature deals 1 damage to target opponent. So the obvious joke here is mobilize. Your mobilized creatures basically deal double damage with this out, and it's just like a 2 drop. Um, this kind of effect, like we've seen as 1 in a red for an enchantment in Impact Tremors. That card wasn't very good in limited, but this just comes with a free 1/3 reach body. Like, I think this is a pretty good rate. I'm
I think
kind of
this card's a
excited about this
banger.
card. Yeah, I agree. It's just going to deal so much damage to them in a mobilized deck. Like, oh my goodness, it's easy for me to see this dealing 5 to your opponent, like
Yeah, like
without
they put
much
the black creature on
difficulty.
4 mana and drain, and now all of a sudden this one's, it's not draining, it's pinging, but it's on 2 mana. I think this card's good.
Right,
I
I
like. I'm
agree.
almost at the point of calling this card like a 4. I think this card's gonna be
I
uh
was going to say a 4.
like
Yeah, I think this is
difficult
a
to
4.
get. All right.
4 for Shocking Sharpshooter. A shocking
Now
rate.
we are on to Sunset Strike Master. This is 2 mana for a 3/1 mana dork. The taps for red. And then for 3 mana, you can tap sacrifice this creature to deal 6 damage to target creature with flying. Um,
Weird card.
Interesting effect to put on a 3/1 mana dork. I think I'm not terribly excited about this card. 3/1 means it can be a nice attacker after it's done accelerating your mana a little bit. Um, I don't think we're going to sacrifice it to kill flyers very often, but that's a cool addition. I think I put
It
this
is the dragon
probably,
set.
yeah, I think I probably put it like above the commons, but not much higher than that. Like a 6 would be my guess.
I agree. Yeah, like notably, this is sort of a weird new color pie thing for red, just having like a mana dork straight up. Um, I think I don't really know how good like mana dorks are in red decks. They're probably not great, just because your spells tend to be cheaper and you're not like ramping to things. But this has a nice buyout of just like killing a dragon in the late game when the mana ability and the body are no longer relevant. Um, I sort of feel subjectively higher on this card than how you were talking about it, but I would give it the same grade. I would say it's a 6.
Okay. All right.
Next card is Reverberating Summons. 1 in a red for an enchantment. At the beginning of each combat, if you cast 2 or more spells this turn, this enchantment becomes a 3/3 monk creature with haste in addition to its other types until end of turn. And you can pay 1 in a red, discard your hand, sacrifice this enchantment, and draw 2 cards. Fascinating. This is a very weird little card. Um, It's kind of a 3/3 on turn 4 if you can cast it with another 2-drop, and then it's sort of a draw 2 once you've run out of gas in the late game. So, like, it's obviously the joke is that it, like, keeps letting you double spell to some extent, but I'm pretty skeptical.
I think it's kind
Where
of
are
bad.
you leaning? Yeah.
I I mean, I don't think it's unplayable. I probably have it like an 8, but it just doesn't seem like the kind of card these decks want.
Yeah, like, I keep trying to read it as if it, like, tormenting voices when it enters or something, because that feels like
Mm,
what the card does, but it doesn't actually do that. And it's just not gonna be a creature enough of the time, I don't think, to, like, actually be good enough. Having to spend 2 mana to discard your hand and draw 2 with this means that, like, it's gonna be really hard to double spell even if you draw 2 spells.
mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think I'm off of it. I think I agree, like, probably an 8. I just don't think you need to ever prioritize this card.
I agree. Right. We are on to Unsparing Boltcaster. This is 3 mana for a 3/3. When this creature enters, it deals 5 damage to target creature and opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn. Okay, so typically effects like this, I don't really care for a whole lot in limited. You know, it like they require a certain amount of things to go right in most games for this effect to be relevant. That being said, with the mobilize mechanic, this definitely seems like it might be more premier than it is in most sets. Um, something is gonna like block the mobilized creature to kind of deal with the point of damage for free or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden you can kill it. Um, that being said, it does still need a lot to work. I think I put this probably like slightly above the commons. I think about a 6 is probably where I'm at.
Yeah, I think the body is, like, good enough where if you only sometimes get the effect, you're overall pretty happy with that, and with Mobilize, you're gonna get the effect a decent amount, so, yeah, I think this is, like, a little bit better than it would be in most other sets. I agree, I think, like, 6, I think that's a good place for it.
All
Next, we
right.
have Zergo's Vanguard. 2 in a red for a star 3 with Mobilize 1, and its power is equal to the number of creatures you control. So, haha, when you attack with it, it gets, greater power. It's at least a 2/3 on attacks, probably a little bit more. It's a dog, funnily enough. Dog soldier, even though it's like riding a spider or something. Um, this card's nice. Like, it's a mobilize thing. It sort of does mobilize stuff. Uh, Pretty solid body. So, yeah, I would give this maybe a 5, maybe a 6. I think I'm like valuing cards with mobilize somewhat higher just because, like I said in the end of the white video, like there's just so many cards that work with them. So I think I'm giving it a little bit of a bump for that, but I think I'd put this at like a 5.
I think I'm at a 5. I think this card's kind of a banger. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's got mobilize. The creature's power um is means that this thing's probably gonna get pretty big pretty fast. I like it. I'm a fan.
Cool.
All right, we are on the Overwhelming Surge. 3 mana for an instant. Choose one or both. It deals 3 damage to target creature or destroy target non-creature artifact. Non-creature artifact. Okay, so I mean, I guess a part of how you value this in this set is the artifact slot, which we have not yet looked at. I know it is like at least a little relevant because we do know there's a mana rock and it looks like there's some creatures that are artifacts. And
There's also these like uncommon fixers that like tutor up a land and have like a spell ability on them that I think are going to be played in almost every deck. So that's I think the main thing that this is supposed to be going after.
yeah, and it deals 3
Just
damage
noting
to
that I
target
forget what
creature.
they're called, but
I think this card's pretty good.
yeah,
It's flexible. I don't think
yeah.
it's like premier removal spell. I don't think I'm giving it like the 3 that we give a lot of our removal spells, but it's probably a 4.
I would go with like a 5
Yeah,
maybe for this.
I could
I
also
don't
see
think
a
there's going to be
5.
enough non-creature artifacts that I'm like actively excited about it. But actually, I don't know. 3 mana for 3 damage to just a creature is kind of a lot, to be honest. I might even say like a 6 or a 7. I feel like this card might just be average.
I could see
I think
that.
I think I'm smelling average for this. So I'm gonna boldly give it a 7, I guess.
I think I'm not giving it lower
Yeah,
than a 6. You know, like at the very least, it is a removal spell, even if it's a little overcosted. I think
it's
that
true.
has
Instant speed is nice.
high enough value. Um, yeah, I think I'm
I
definitely
don't
not
know,
giving it
like
lower than a
compare it to Lightning
6.
Strike in Aether Drift, right? Like it could just be 3 mana Lightning Strike.
Yeah, but Lightning Strike looks like it would be a lot more broken in this set.
That's true. That's very
I
true.
think
Yeah,
I'm
and
gonna
I think
end with
that's
a
what matters
solid
more here.
5. I'm
Okay,
giving it a 5.
I'm gonna say 7.
All right.
We can agree to disagree. Next up, Equilibrium Adept. 3 in a red for a 2/4. When it enters, exile the top card of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play that card, and Flurry whenever you cast your second spell each turn. This creature gains double strike until end of turn. I like this package a lot. Like that ability, especially when it says until the end of your next turn,
Mhm.
so you get a full untap step to be able to cast the spell. That's very, very close to just saying draw a card on it. And
Yeah.
then sometimes this being a basically 4/4 creature, or like a 2/4 double strike, I like it. Like the body is good enough to really matter, and it just kind of also draws you a card. So this card's sweet. I'd give it like a 5 probably.
Yeah, I'm about in the same place. I do think it gets plus a point for the art. It's just so good. It's a dog, and the dog is just
The
really
dog monk.
vibing. And look,
Yeah.
smiling. What a baby. All right, now we are into not cute things. War effort. 4 mana for an enchantment. Creatures you
Just
control.
the group's official stance on war. Can we give it?
Boo.
Boo. Okay, we had to make that statement.
4 mana for an enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+0. Whenever you attack, make a mobilize. I'm shortening
Exactly.
that to mobilize. Um, I think this card might be good. I think like
I
I don't think
agree.
you're gonna need to prioritize it because your deck's probably not gonna want more than like one. But with the mobilize mechanic, I do think that this is gonna be like a significant card. Um,
2/1s are so much harder to block than 1/1s.
yeah, and they just do so much more damage. I'm
Yeah.
probably at like a 5.5 because I'm nervous to say something is like this is a 5. But I do think you would like one in your mobilized decks.
Yeah, the card's very bad at blocking. Like, gotta
Yeah,
get that out of the way. It does nothing on defense, but it is kind of a banger on offense. And I think a lot of red decks are going to really want it. So I could even say it's like a 4, but I think it's very hard to have a card be actively great and limited if it doesn't do anything on defense or like to catch you up from being behind.
especially at 4
So yeah,
mana.
I think a 5 is like pretty fair. I think we'll be a little safer and give this a 5.
All right,
I
we're
like
on the
it.
same page.
Cool. All right, next up we have an is this fixing banger, Iridescent Tiger, 4 in a red for a 3/4. When this creature enters, if you cast it, add Wooburg. Uh, this is fixing, I think.
It's
Like
fixing.
you cast this, and then you just get to cast any 3-color card that you want,
Yeah, it
basically.
works with the 2 spell deck. It's also a 3/4 that replaces its mana for the turn. Storm who?
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
This
This
card.
card's sweet. Now I'm honestly thinking like, should we brew with this in standard? Like, Pixie bounce something? I don't know.
Pixie bounce with
Blink,
a red
whatever.
tiger that makes Wooburg.
Yeah. Uh, I think this card might actually be like kind of sweet. Like it's sort of a free 3/4 that you cast on turn 5 or later to some extent. And like that's really nice when you can have another spell to follow this up with. And I think most of the time you will. It also doesn't have to be a spell. You can cast this, or sorry, it doesn't have to be a spell from your hand. So you can cast this and like harmonize from your graveyard or use some mana ability or whatever. So like,
Oh, it's especially
yeah,
cool
I
with
think this card's
Harmonize
just
because
sweet.
it also can tap for Harmonize.
Exactly. There's basically no harmonized card you can not cast after you play this, except the like red shock one, like anything with double pips. But even then, like just wait till 6 mana and have double red, and you're fine. Um, yeah, this card's great. Well, it's definitely good. I'm not
Yeah,
sure if it's great.
I'm at probably a 5. On the like it's good, but not sure it's great. And I think that's mostly because the red decks we've seen so far, um, are like a lot of them are low costed and very aggressive and like low to the ground, which this is not quite exactly where that is. We talked about the other colors being like, you know, white and blue were support colors, and black seemed like a very strong like base color. Red seems like it wants to be the main attraction. Like it's, you know, most of the cards seem like you want to be doing aggressive things. You know, you want to be a red card. Not super, where this like feels like more of a support card for other colors. Like it doesn't super line up with exactly what the red decks are doing. And because of that, I think I would give it a 5. If it aligned a little bit better with the strategy, I could see going even higher on it, because I do think the card is very cool. But I think because it doesn't super line up, I'm gonna put it at a 5.
I agree. I think 5 is exactly where I want to land. It could be higher. Like this is kind of a weird card that might outperform, but it also might underperform. Like 3/4 is not a great body. Maybe it's just too hard to be able to use all of the mana effectively. So yeah, I think 5 is right where I'd land.
Well, what you can use 5 mana on is our last red card, Breaching Dragonstorm. Um, I didn't read it, but I did read that it was 5 mana, so we'll see if we want to play it or not. Breaching Dragonstorm is a 5 mana enchantment. When it enters, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You can cast it without paying its mana cost if that spell's mana value is 8 or less. If you don't, put it in your hand. I don't think we want to cast this card. It's like
Hey, wait.
5.
When
This
a
is a
dragon you
command.
control enters, return this enchantment to its owner's hand. Isn't it sweet?
This is a commander card, I think, not really a limited card. You know, most of the time you cast this, you're going to end up with a card that is cheaper than the card itself. And you just don't want your decks to be that random and unfocused. I think this will be one of my few 10s.
I agree. Yeah, like you're not usually casting a card that costs 4 or 5 or even 6 or 7, 8 mana. Like this is gonna cast a 3 drop. Be honest with yourself. This is gonna cast a 3 drop most of the
And
time.
even if it
Sometimes
casts
even a two
a
or a
5
one.
drop, you would just want to play that 5 drop.
Right, exactly. So yeah, no, this card is
I don't want to cast it
cheeky.
once, let
I'll give it a
alone several
10.
times. I don't want to pick up this
Agreed.
one and put it down. All right, thank you for watching the red cards of the Tarkir set review. If you want to support the channel, you can do so by liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing this video, you know, all things that are super helpful to the algorithm. If you want to support either of us more directly, you can do so through Patreon. Ryan's Patreon is great. I've now bragged about it more times than I can count, but I think like you should at least go look at it. Ryan's Patreon is an incredible resource, and has lots of cool free content on top of, you know, what you can get if you pay for it. So do yourself a favor, go check it out. It's worth your time, I promise. And then I also have a Patreon. If you care about Esper Pixie at all, you should definitely have it. Otherwise, you know, I post some blogs and some thoughts about how I'm getting better through Magic. You know, as someone relatively new to the competitive space, I think it is pretty cool. And with all of that, we will see you guys in the next one.